Welcome to an exclusive interview that was conducted on the 30th of March, 2018 with KiwiDog and NoFate, the creators of a Battlefield 3 mod entitled VeniceUnleashed. I hope those of you listening to this interview enjoy it as we get a look into the background of these two local heroes in the modding community. In the description below will be links to some of the topics discussed here, as well as any outside media used in the video. We hope you enjoy the interview, and you can check back at nlgo.net for more information as Venice Unleashed continues its development. This is Evan from Next Level, and today I have with me two people responsible for a game mod that is many years in the making and seeks to make bold changes to a many years old franchise, Battlefield, specifically Battlefield 3. And with me today are NoFate and KiwiDog, the leaders of the Venice Unleashed project. So Kiwi, NoFate, if you guys would like to say hi.
Hey, so this is NoFate. I'm the lead developer and I guess founder of Venice Unleashed. And Kiwi.
KiwiDog, been modding for many years before Venice Unleashed and code developer since 2012, 2013.
Sounds about right.
So the first question that I have is, how did you two meet?
Okay.
Well, we never really
I don't remember, to be honest.
We crossed paths like a couple of times through mutual friends, but we never talked to each other until I think I did the nighttime mod stuff.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, I think you did like the zombie thing.
Yeah, the nighttime mod for Battlefield 3 with a couple of YouTubers, popular YouTubers at the time.
Yeah, and I think that's how we first got in real contact with each other and started kind of, figuring out if we can, let's say, work together.
So you say mutual friends, and I know this, but the people who might be listening to this don't. Kiwi lives in California, and NoFate, you live in Greece. So how do people from other sides of the world have mutual friends together like that? That's just amazing, I think.
Well,
the magic of the internet.
Yeah, pretty much. At the time, I was doing a couple of Call of Duty mods, but I was on console and NoFate was on PC. So we end up being in the same party a couple of times, but we never really talked to each other or anything. It was all just we were there for somebody else.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was involved with some people who were doing some modding stuff, some very initial modding stuff for Bad Company 2 at that time, and we were trying to get our own servers going so we could get mods on them because we couldn't do that on the official servers. And I think that's kind of when we got together for the first time. Because Kiwi was also into the BC2, that's Bad Company 2, scene back then on PC, and
Yeah,
he was doing his own.
Time.
Yeah, he was doing his own shenanigans.
So then the next question I have is, and I guess I think it was Kiwi that kind of touched on this, but do either of you have any formal education in game design or programming? And I guess where did you guys learn to do this reverse engineering? Because these mod tools were created by you guys, if I'm not mistaken. These weren't given to you by DICE, correct?
Yeah, so some background. So when we started, it was just a matter, we started the same way we started with Bad Company 2. So the first task, let's say, was to get, into our own server. As soon as we got into our own server, we could then start messing with it and playing with it and seeing what we can make it do, how we can make it tick. And then from that point on, it was just, figuring out all the different things to be able to add more and more features to the engine to make it do what we want it to do. So, for example, to allow people to make their own mods, to allow custom content, and all those different things. And for me, at least, this was not something that I was very familiar with, since the only thing that I had really done in regards to, reverse engineering was some very basic research around Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I want to say.
Yep.
And and then just some source engine nonsense that I was playing with when I was younger. So, custom mods for that, CS and what have you.
Okay.
So it's been a learning experience for, I guess, for both of us
Yeah,
going
and
through this.
for me, I started on PC with Halo modding
Hmm.
way back when, and then I did. I kind of picked up reverse engineering around like that time, around like Halo 1 PC, Halo Trial like days, and brought that into Halo 2 PC. And then I went to Call of Duty on consoles, but I never went to school for any of this. I was probably like 15 or 16 at the time when first like dealing with Halo stuff, so there's no formal education there. I am going through school, but it's literally just to say, oh, hey, I got a degree. But I'm like everything I'm learning in school is more general. I do like security work as a day job. I'm going to school for software development and security, but it's like I am using the skills that I learned from the days in Halo and like Call of Duty and stuff and applying that for my real like career. It didn't happen the other way around for me.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same story for me. Like I started with programming, I guess, at around maybe I don't even know how old I was, but what I remember is that my first experience with modding ever, and this is gonna sound kind of weird, but there was this game Lineage 2? I don't know what it's called. Everybody here calls it Lineage, but I think it's Lineage. And it was very big here. It's an MMO. So I really, really, really wanted to make my own server for that. So that was kind of my first hands-on experience with kind of modding and figuring out how to do things. And then from that, I made mods for, like I said, source games. I was porting at some point the Black Mesa source mod, and that was later, but I was making it into a co-op experience, so that was kind of weird. And then some other shenanigans with other Valve games like Portal and what have you. And then Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I was part of the Alt-Right WNet project. I was basically working on different mods for the game, porting over, well, recreating rather, game modes from other games and from newer games, and then VU.
Awesome. This is a question I was going to ask a little bit later, but you guys have brought it up how like you have a lot of experience so far with modding. But have you guys thought about like releasing or possibly like combining your skills together and releasing your own game? Because it seems like you guys have a lot of experience through personal educate, like through education, jobs, and this whole reverse engineering process. You guys seem like you have a lot of knowledge between you two. Have you guys thought about releasing your own game?
So we have talked about this a lot. Um, we, at least from my side, I've always wanted to make a game. It's just, the opportunity hasn't presented itself, I guess. It's just so many things going on. There's not enough time to, invest
Yeah,
on
and
on
then
making a good game.
for me, I wanted to do the same thing, and we actually have like a couple of friends that are actually in game development and things like that. But I'm just gonna say it like this: you see how long Venice Unleashed has taken? We're gonna be on some extra Valve time if we were to make a game before it would come out, but it would be a really good quality product when it finally did come out. But like I said, Valve time if if we were to
Yeah,
work
and
on it.
and and that's always been kind of a thing for us. With VU, we weren't exactly sure how we should approach it, and we think now that releasing it when we did might not have been the best idea because there were still a lot of things that we were working on and we were not ready to push through. So right now, we want to make sure that what we're doing is right, what we're doing, does all the things that we want it to do before giving it to other people. And that applies to everything. Even if we were going to make a game, that also is very important.
Okay, so why did you guys choose Battlefield 3 for the game that you were gonna like do this really big project on? Why
I
not something
I
else?
I don't know why No Fade did it, but
Yeah, now that I'm
uh
thinking about it.
I waited 7 years for the successor to Battlefield 2. And what they gave me was Call of Duty with blue filter and vehicles, and I'm pissed.
Oh, hey, that's
I
a
guess
that's a good answer.
I guess for me, I don't know. I really don't remember what got into me, and I wanted to do this. I mean, I played Battlefield games. So I played Battlefield 2. I played 1942. I played 2142 and Bad Company 2, but that was, very, very recently compared to when VU started. So I guess I kind of had this feeling that I had from the previous games and some expectations that, like Huey said, you were waiting for a new Battlefield 2 and you got a Battlefield 1.5.
So you're kind of doing this not because, well, I don't know how to really phrase
Oh,
it other than
also, I want to add on to that. Well, we watch it, Dice. You said this game was too complex to mod. Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Might take us 5 to 6 years, but challenge accepted.
that was one thing that my friend and I have talked about a lot whenever we talk about Venice Unleashed and Alter IWNet and U2, that they've been like, oh yeah, Battlefield's a really complex game, and like here two people are doing this. Yeah, like you guys have said, it's taken you guys like 5 or 6 years, but it's amazing what you two have done, frankly.
Well, yeah, that statement is definitely a double whammy because it's not too complicated. There's been harder to use engines that people have made mods and mod tools for. As in like there's in the terms of there's no mod support, there's no support from the developers and things like that. And other people have done amazing things. Like for me, I come from Halo 2 modding on the Xbox, and some of the like Killtrocity map packs and the various map packs that people created with really terrible and broken tools showed me that people will work through pretty much anything to get what their customizations in their games. So our idea was let's provide something that isn't broken to the community for all to use to take all that complexity and boil it down to something just a little bit more easier to handle and work with.
Yeah, and that's kind of why this has been taking so long, because we're trying to take something as complex as the Frostbite engine, which we don't know many things about, and we're learning things about every day, and turning it into something that people can just use to create their own, mods, experiences, whatever you want to call them.
So you guys have also been touching on this as we've been talking, but what are some previous games that you've modded? And No Fate, I know that you most certainly have had your fingers, and you've said it a few times, Alter IWNet. And I know this because one of my friends and I have done modding also with Alter IWNet, and we were in his basement one day, and this was just when we were hearing about Venice Unleashed, and we opened up one of the files, and right there at the top was your name, and we kind of got this little glimmer inside of us. So, I don't know. You explain what Alter IWNet was like, and I guess then Kiwi too. You can talk about Halo modding.
So yeah, Alternate Deadly was a wild ride. There was a lot of things going on, and it was kind of my first dive into Call of Duty. I never really played Call of Duty before that. I played some COD 2 at like an internet cafe with friends from time to time, but that was about the extent of my knowledge of Call of Duty. But I found it very interesting that you could just change some code in the script of the game and just make it do all sorts of weird stuff. My role there was I was just managing and maintaining our websites. And when I say our websites, I mean like I was the one who had created the theme for our forums and all those different things and different services that talk together and different experiences for our users. And then I was also making official mods for Ultra IWNet. So one of them I think was Kill Confirmed, which was like a recreation from the Black Ops game mode.
Mm-hmm.
We had another one that was it was gun game. So you kill someone, you get a better gun until you reach a knife, and then you win. And then I guess one of the most impressive things that I did that I took way too long to finish, but it was like I managed to make a drivable helicopter for Modern Warfare 2. So that was interesting.
That is quite the
Um,
helicopter. I've seen it, and it's interesting.
yeah, it was interesting. I wasn't sure if it was gonna work when I first started working on it. It was good because I had seen this one guy who had made, what was it? Was it a Harrier that you could fly around? It was pretty basic, but it was cool to me at least. So I kind of wanted to replicate that and turn it into something usable, and that's what that flying helicopter, drivable helicopter thing was.
So Kiwi, what was it like working with Halo 2 and modding that? You said that it was.
Well, okay, so Halo for me was more like engine based, like figuring out how the Blam engine worked and reverse engineering stuff like that. Uh, I was a cheater back then. Like before I went into modding, like I did aim bots, I did like typical cheats for Battlefield, like Call of Duty, like Halo was another one of them. But then like I got really bored with cheats because once you make them, they kind of just work. There's no more extra you can do with it. And I was like, well, I wanted to make like a couple of custom mods and stuff like that. So I did it through the engine instead of modifying the mat files like how people on Xbox did it. Because to me, at my young age at the time, I didn't have like the brain capacity to like understand the whole like file formats at the time.
Mhm.
Because it all just seemed like magic to me. But like memory addresses and like engine based stuff, I really got into. But I really got into like file modding and reverse engineering during the Xbox 360 era. There is one point in time where any new first person shooter that came out for the Xbox 360, I had mods on it
Hmm.
like within a week or two,
Wow.
and that went on for like a few years. Like it was a YouTube video that my friend recorded of me getting like custom console commands running on uh Black Ops, I think it was, like in under 6 minutes,
Wow.
from like having the files dumped from my like DVD onto my computer to like a proof of concept 6 minutes.
Good
Yeah, and
times.
yeah, and then I moved on. I modded Gears of War for like a very short while. The Unreal Engine at the time wasn't open source, and it was pretty much how like Frostbite is. And at the time, I didn't really see the use of pouring all my efforts into like one game that wouldn't really be portable to any other. So I left Gears of War modding and went to what did I go? I think that's when I switched over to Call of Duty. But there's definitely a couple of games in between there. Like I wrote basic mod tools for Skyrim before the official
Oh,
SDK came
Skyrim.
out. Yeah,
Hmm.
Oh
before
man.
and yeah, pretty much just all the Halo games after that. Crisis, I did Crisis on console, and that was it, I think. I'm probably forgetting some. There's probably a lot of like miscellaneous games, but those are the
Yeah.
ones I remember like being the most pain in my rear end.
So, kind of a branch off of this, you seem to have a lot of experience with console modding, and now through Venice Unleashed, you guys are doing a lot of PC modding. Is there any real difference in difficulty between modding for PC and modding for console?
Yeah, they have their own quirks. Each console is also slightly different, but it pretty much gets down to this. Once you have like code execution, like you would normally on a PC, it's just on a PC you could like double click something and it'll execute. On consoles, you got to figure out a way how to get your own code not only loaded but running. In the case of the 360, it had already been hacked and all the stuff like for JTAGs or whatnot, that was all done. So you could literally just build your own executable, drop it on there, and launch it with like libxenon or whatever, and it would just run normally. It's pretty much for 360, it's pretty much a Windows binary like format. Not the same thing, but like just a similar format. And then same thing on PS3. They use encrypted ELF files. And yeah, so it's different, but once you get code execution, it's all the same for the most part. Debugging on PC, way nicer. Definitely a way larger help than on consoles where you're kind of blind or you have to like write your own debugger, which is what I ended up doing.
Still a massive pain in the ass on PC too, though.
Oh, I believe
Yeah.
it. I had some experience with my friend when we were doing our Modern Warfare 2 mod where we would get extremely vague errors and we would, well, granted we had no idea what we were doing to begin with, but we had even less of an idea of what to do. So we would just sit there.
GSC errors were just magical.
I
I
think that was
I don't
something
even
like
know
original.
how I don't even know how many hours I've spent scratching my head looking at odd errors and having no idea what they mean.
Remind me after this to look at the files because we have comments in some of the code of what we found and it was just the worst. So this is recent, but my friend that I did this modding with, he was in a server and they were talking about some Halo Alpha disc that got released, and I think Kiwi and I talked about a little bit about the Halo Alpha. So I'm curious, are you doing anything with that, Kiwi?
No, I don't really care about Halo anymore. I after ODST I was done.
Yeah.
So I'm not really all that interested.
That's fair
I gotta
enough.
say, I haven't even played Halo. I mean, no, that's a lie. I've played Halo, but
Not in a
I've
while.
never really played it, you know?
It's
Yeah.
it's definitely a game, all right. It's like it's a really classic shooter, I would say at this point. The old ones are.
Yeah. It's mostly because I never really had any consoles other than a PS2 and a PSP.
Mm.
So those were kind of like my last consoles that I had.
Hmm.
And only recently did I start, getting back into consoles, kinda. A friend of mine gave me some of his, like, he gave me his old Xbox 360 and his PS3, and I recently got recently, when Breath of the Wild was released, I got a Wii U. And I've been, kind of saying to myself, I need to play the Halo collection. I'm gonna play, Halo 1, 2 on PC, and then I'm gonna play the rest on, or what is it, three? Just three? Because the rest are bad or something like that.
Three ODST in Reach and four.
Yeah, on the Xbox. I just haven't gotten around to it.
So my next question for you guys is, where do you draw your inspiration from? And well, yeah, let's just start with that. Where do you guys draw any inspiration from? Because I know Kiwi had said that back with Halo 2, he saw other people using awful tools and they made these really great things. And I was curious if those people or other people that you guys have interacted with have really encouraged you or inspired you to do things.
For me, it's always been a couple of things. It's been the fact that, I want to do something. Like, I want to achieve something. Like, I want to be able to, let's say, fly in Battlefield, and I'm gonna try to find out how to do that. So that's one way to motivate myself. But then another very important thing for me has always been, the community around a game. In this case, for example, Battlefield. As someone who had played the previous ones, and I loved Battlefield, I enjoyed it. It was just disappointing,
Mm-hmm.
Battlefield 3 was just like, it was fun, but it was just missing some things that you would think were so obvious. It's just been this constant cycle of, what do we think that people value about this, and how can we give it to them? And even through our development phase, we've been, in very close talks with people from the community. We have, several people who are currently developing mods for us, who keep giving us feedback back and forth. And we're basically just building things based on what they need, essentially, and based on what we think is useful and valuable for people to, create all sorts of wacky, weird stuff.
And with you guys modding Battlefield 3, has being a Battlefield player affected your modding experience? Like, have you seen anything in, not necessarily previous to Battlefield 3, but any Battlefield title? Have you seen something and been like, oh, we should use this, or oh, we shouldn't do this?
Yeah, definitely. I can list them off. Eventually, battle recorder, like configurable suppression, because nobody likes having their screen all blurry when they're trying to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like pretty much a lot of the features and stuff that were in Battlefield 2 and like 1942, like the commander mode was actually like really useful. You could direct squads, all of that, and then they like brought it back kinda in Battlefield 4 and just used it like a marketing thing. But if you like played any of the older Battlefields, for example, like commander mode, like the drops, everything like that was just so badly implemented, in my opinion, in like Battlefield 4 and in Battlefield 3's case, completely missing with like half a car can like cut off.
It wasn't even fun in Battlefield 4 Commander.
No.
It was pretty useless.
Yeah,
Like,
and the fact that you just couldn't just jump in a game and then switch to Commander, it was like, why? Why do I have to quit the game and rejoin to be a Commander? Like, what?
So I guess,
yeah,
yeah, you
there's
guys
a lot.
are, this has affected you guys, and I guess that's a good thing that you guys are seeing what works or seeing what you like and what you don't like, and then bringing it back or leaving it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but another important thing to mention is that, you know, we may think that suppression is bad, but that's just us, right? And a few other people, or maybe a lot of other people. But that doesn't mean that there's people who don't like it. So we've made a conscious effort to try to make everything configurable. So if you want to play VU and you want the 100% vanilla Battlefield 3 experience, be my guest, you can have that. That is 100% up to you or the server that you're joining. So we've made sure that you can tune the game in a way that makes sense to you. You don't want suppression? Disable it. You don't want color correction? Disable it. You don't want, you know, vehicles to automatically, you know, just die by themselves? Disable it. Stuff like that.
And that kind of leads into a question that I had further down the list, but why have you guys done some of the things that you did, like this removing the removable suppression, and well, I don't really need to ask you guys about this one, but the most notable, best thing about Battlefield 3 is the blue filter. Why'd you guys get rid of that?
I mean, all right, Prime. Going back to the whole configuration thing, DICE said that they were gonna look into giving us like a console command on PC, and then when the patch rolls around and it wasn't included, everyone was like, "Why?" The answer they gave, "We feel confident
Creative
in."
vision.
Yeah, or something. We feel confident in our direction, and everyone's over here like, "What? What?"
Yeah, it was something like we want to maintain the creative vision of our game, or like the identity of our game, or something
Which
ridiculous
is
like that. I was like,
funny
what?
because during the alpha, Metro did not have any blue filter, and it looks so beautiful.
And then you look at like other games and you look at the list of customization options that they give you, and it's just like insane. And as a player, you know, that's great because they take into consideration that, you know, you might not like 100% of the choices that they make. But yeah, and just to give you a better answer, I guess, most of the things that we decided to change were because we saw that a big portion of the Battlefield community wanted them changed. So, you know, people were complaining about suppression, people were complaining about the blue tint. We were like, okay, you don't like it?
Easy, low
That's
hanging fruit for us to change.
Yeah, that were some of the easiest things for us to, you know, make configurable.
So the next question I have is, what PR stuff have you guys done to get hype for VU? Because I know you guys have a Steam page, you guys have a subreddit, you guys have your own forums. And how have you guys tried to like get everyone hyped up for Venice Unleashed, especially with the fact that this project is so long running, and I've gone on the Reddit many times, and it's been like people asking a bunch of questions. When's this coming out? Is this project dead? So how are you guys
Yeah,
maintaining the hype for this?
I think one of like No Fate's original rules when we were starting this project is we aren't going to show anything publicly that we are not ready to ship, or it's almost like ready to ship out to the user. So there's a lot of like internal testing and stuff that we do that just doesn't make it, and we never mention it because we don't want to create like unnecessary hype around this. And as for like PR, we have, like I said, like both of us on both sides, we have connections with old time Battlefield fans and streamers, YouTubers, these things that way back when 2011, 2010, when they only had 20 subscribers, we were friends and we played Battlefield all the time. And this is where some of the suggestions were even coming from people who played Battlefield actively, like religiously. And then once the later series came on, everyone went different games. Some people went got popular with CS:GO, PUBG, Fortnite, et cetera, et cetera. But we always try to show what we're actively working on that we know is going to be a good commitment. And we listen to pretty much every suggestion that gets posted on our forums or a subreddit. If somebody mentions something, like we had a quite popular streamer the other day who loved Battlefield 3 and was thinking like, oh, hey, we should possibly do a BR and Battlefield 3. So these are like suggestions that we hear, and we're seeing if it's feasible for us to do that, or our development team that we have working on mods, they'll go ahead and try out some prototypes, let us know like, hey, this would be nice, could we get this, how do we do this, and it pretty much community everything.
Yeah. But with all that being said, we have not, actively been trying to promote VU in a while now because we're just head down. We're working towards our 1.0 release. Um, and there's several things that we want to do in conjunction with that we basically to just create some hype around it. But for us, like Kiwi said, the most important thing has always been, community feedback, community interaction, all those different things. We have not been very good in some cases about communicating, progress, but we're getting better at that.
I'm
Yeah, and it
really
also comes down to we do this in our spare times. Both of us have full-time jobs and are students. Like it when we get chunks of time, we'll put chunks of time in there, but there's just sometimes where we don't know in the far, even up into the far future, if we're gonna have time to even touch the project just because like life gets in the way. Like there was a point in time where like No Fate was committing to the project, like progressing it, but because of my schoolwork and work situations and things like that, that I couldn't touch it. I literally had no time for about a few months. But normally progress is always moving forward. Either No Fade's busy and I'm working on it, or I'm busy and he's working on it, or when we get time together, we'll line up and we'll both just work on it and get huge features done and pretty much just push towards that 1.0 goal.
Yeah, trying to find time and sometimes interest has been a challenge. And when I say interest, I mean it's not, I don't care about finishing VU and getting out of the door, but for example, if, you're at school half the day and then you're working for the rest of the day and you have, 2 hours of free time, you're not gonna sit down and work on, something as complex as VU.
Mhm.
You're just gonna, sit and watch YouTube and Twitch or whatever for the rest of the night and just kind of, be a vegetable. So it's on our free time, but we're trying our best to keep progress steady, as steady as possible.
Okay, that's understandable. And I gotta say that I'm really glad that you guys are taking all this community feedback because there seems to be a lot of developers who don't necessarily do that and they do more of what they want. But you guys seem to be the epitome of this whole taking community feedback, and I'm certainly grateful for it. And I'm sure that when this is out and you guys are just keeping on working on it, there's going to be a lot of other people who are really grateful for you guys for taking community feedback.
Well, don't get me wrong. We do things that, we want a lot too.
They get prioritized as well. Like there's been a couple of feature requests that have been there for probably over a year now that we just now finally got everything up to, I want to say, like, quote unquote proper code, but like it's pretty much just our understanding of the Frostbite engine changes over time. Like we'll find new stuff that means, oh hey, everything we had previously was being done incorrectly, and we'll go and rewrite it properly. Pretty
Yeah.
much prevent crashes and stuff like that. But
And that
because of
happens a lot.
yeah, that's why soon is a running meme because especially with us doing reverse engineering work, we hit something. It was something fairly simple with vehicles, and we were like, okay, this shouldn't be that hard of like a thing to do. Um, and what do you know? That one minor thing that we didn't think was going to take too long ended up being a whole like subsystem of Frostbite we had to like reverse engineer in order to do things properly.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we don't that's why we don't give ETAs, because us ourselves, we don't have like
Yeah,
anything really helping us. We never know like what we're gonna hit.
you have no idea what's going to come up. And VU has currently gone through, what is it, 4 iterations, I want to
Wow.
say. So it's gone through 2 complete rewrites. It's gone through a major refactoring, and reorganization, and our modding subsystem in itself, called VeniceUnleashed, which is basically for people to write their own code to control game logic and things like that, has been rewritten maybe like 5 times so far. Most recently, it was all redone like a couple of weeks ago, just to give you an idea of how often this happens.
Wow.
Because we're going to be doing one thing one way based on our current understanding of how Frostbite works, and then a few months down the line, we're going to be, for example, looking at something else and realizing that, oh, that thing that we're doing, it's not right. And it's not right can mean a lot of things. It could mean, it can cause issues. It can mean it's not,
Crashing.
yeah, it could
Crashing
be
is the
crashing your
number one
game.
thing.
Lots of
Yeah.
crashes. So we end up having to go back and change things a lot.
Okay. And that kind of leads into the next question of what was the biggest, or what has been the biggest challenge of Venice Unleashed? Like you guys have said that you guys are really full schedules and there's these things that end up taking a lot more time than you think. But like what is possibly one of the biggest issues that you guys have had with developing Venice Unleashed?
Okay, I'm gonna answer that in 2 parts. Um, the first part was about I want to say a year or so ago. We realized, based on our understanding of the Frostbite engine, and also the technical debt that VU brings on with like compilers, like we crash compilers, and like they'll run out of memory, various things like that. And then we were like, okay, we can't keep going like this, and we had to refactor all of Venice Unleashed, and that was about a 20-hour day for about 4 hours straight. I mean, 4 days straight of me doing nothing but refactoring VU into this new design that will allow us to like not only build quicker, link quicker, but also just clean up everything along the way, because before that refactoring there was a lot of code that we like had for a feature, and then once again we realized, oh, we weren't doing it right, so we've removed the code, but then or it'll just be commented out or something like that. So there was a lot of just like leftover experiments and things left in VU that when we did the refactoring we just cut all of that out.
Yeah, and that process, that refactoring process, actually lasted a while until VU was functional again.
Yeah,
And
that took a while.
yeah, and even then, like this version of VU that we're talking about, it's not public. This is the version that is distributed to our testers. But before that, I really have no idea how anything was working. I even
Well,
with
because
the most
remember,
recent changes we did, I still have no idea how everything was working before that. So, it's a miracle, I guess.
Wow. So this really is no simple task. I mean, Dice wasn't completely wrong that this is a really tough thing to surmount,
yeah.
but like,
What?
Yeah,
But
the
like,
thing
I also
is,
think if they just gave stripped down tools, because as they've been posting on their publications, to us, they to me it seems like they're just gloating. But they were talking
yeah,
about how bringing the Frostbite engine from like BC2 to their second like studio or whatever took them over 2 weeks of straight like work. And then they've been talking about it in their publications how over the years their processes are getting faster, like they're changing things, reorienting, and I think one of their last presentations, I think they said it dropped from like 2 weeks down to maybe a couple of days. And I'm like, okay, you guys did all this work, but like, where's the like light version for the community? But I believe that argument is more political within EA than it is technical
hmm,
at this
yeah.
point.
And you see that from all sorts of different, big development studios. They go, for example, to the Game Developers Conference, GDC, and they discuss, let's say, well, they present all those different unique things that they've made. But in most cases, it's just very surface level. It's okay, hey, I made this. Congratulations. That doesn't help me at all.
and had you guys had any actual interactions with people from Dice, and have they helped you guys or given you anything in any way?
Well,
No. Well,
no,
okay,
we haven't
so
we haven't had any official communication with DICE or EA.
just
But
Twitter.
yeah, but with that being said, we have heard a few things from, people within that circle about us, and what I mean is, we've heard what they think about us. And we have also over the years, we have contributed several, fixes, bug fixes, and, issues and all that to them because it's always been very important to us that what we're doing does not interfere in any way with, what EA or DICE is doing from either a legal standpoint or from any other standpoint. So
So
we've come
yeah,
of
we have open communication, but we've also emailed them a couple of times with no response.
Hmm.
yeah,
So that's kind of where it is. We're completely open on our end, but they haven't contacted us. And after those few like initial emails that we were sending out, trying to inquire about what they kind of feel about this. Um, with no reply, we just were like, okay, well, our communication lines are open. Here's where you can reach us, and there's just been no official communication since then.
yeah, and even for the things that we sent them, our findings, we usually don't hear back from them directly. Like usually, maybe we have, some guy, some contact somewhere who has a friend who works at EA, and he's gonna push a message through from us that, hey, there's an issue with this thing, so fix it. So
Yeah.
there's not been any direct communication
So
at all.
it's like we'll communicate with them, and then we'll see that they fix whatever, but there's nothing
Yeah,
coming back out.
Hmm.
pretty much, yeah.
Hmm. So it was briefly mentioned by No Fate by means of like chuckling, but what do they think about you guys?
It depends on who you talk to. We've been called some explicit words by some members of Dice, while other members were like, "Hey, we appreciate this. We can't say
Endorse it.
more than this. Yeah, we can't endorse this, but we all came from game modding or like came from something small. So like they have that little bit of sentimental thing to it, but it's not like an endorsement. It's nothing like that. It's kind of like, oh hey, like this is kind of cool, but like that's it.
I can't talk about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't talk about it.
Yeah, it's politics. It makes sense, you know. EA wants to protect their intellectual property, and that's what, you know, we're completely in line with that. Um, it's just politics.
Hmm. And have you guys had any legal issues with Venice Unleashed?
No,
No,
we've taken
extreme
great
care.
care. Yeah, great care to make sure that everything we're doing is 100% legal. To play VU, you need not only to own the game, we need to verify that you own the game through your Origin account. So, and not only that, we have actually extended the DRM of the game to fix some of its issues that, you know, would allow people to play with illegal copies, and a lot of other things that we do to make sure that people, you know, just can't just pirate the game, for example.
Yeah, we are strictly no piracy. Like even if somebody joins our Discord and they're like, "Hey, this doesn't work," and I have a cracked copy, like just our community will laugh them out of the Discord.
Yeah, pretty much. As soon as someone joins and is like, "Hey, you know, I downloaded this torrent," it's like, "Okay, bye bye."
Bye.
Have you guys
Yeah.
had to remove people from not only your Discord but other parts of the community for having these illegal copies of the game?
Yes.
Yeah,
Our
the
mod
staff.
team, yeah, our mod team, they were on that for like when we first launched VU, it was crazy how many people thought that they could just play for free.
Hmm.
Which, you know, I understand coming from Alt-Right WNet, it makes sense, I guess, to
Mhm.
some people. But, you know, our mod team were just champs and just cleaned everything up.
Yeah. There were a lot of hammers swung that day,
Like we don't mind people talking about, you know, whatever they want to talk about.
but don't
Um,
push it in regard like
yeah, like
if
don't
somebody
share, you know, links. Don't, you know, don't show people how to crack the game. Don't do those things.
Yeah, but if somebody says, "Oh, will this work with a torrent?" and somebody in our community says no, and they drop it, you're free and welcome to stay here. The game goes on sale for $5. It was free
It was
at some
free,
point.
yeah, it was free at
Yeah,
some point.
and then we ran our first tournament, and the price went up to $20, like clockwork, because it was $5 for months we ran our VU tournament and like it was live streamed. We had commentators. We had like professional Battlefield teams actually play with our high frequency mode and everything like that. And then literally the second the stream finished, like within 30 minutes, I was like, "Yo, check the price of Battlefield 3 on Origin." And it was $20. And at the time, Battlefield 4 was still $5.
Yeah. Speaking of that tournament, so that was interesting. So we had a lot of fun doing that, and it was in cooperation with some friends of ours from ESL. But we found out after the fact that they got into trouble for doing that from EA, and we're not entirely sure why that happened. And we reached out, we tried to, you know, talk with them, and by them I mean EA, to figure out, you know, what was the issue. The only thing we heard, and that was from the ESL guys, was that EA wants to protect its rights, and you can't do any more VU tournaments. That's it. So that was a bit of a bummer, but like I was saying before, politics.
And I just checked the price of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 on Origin, and they're both $20. So,
Oh, wow. Still?
yeah.
That's Crazy. I guess they're turning into Activision slowly. Buy Modern Warfare 2 for $50 after 10 years after it's released.
So, what are some of the game mode mods that you guys have made for Venice Unleashed? Like, I remember one of the first things I saw was the nighttime mod, and it was being exposed on Operation Metro, and it was pitch black outside. So, aside from this midnight mod, what are some other things that you guys have done for custom, like, game modes or really specific things?
That was actually preview.
Really?
The
Yeah.
nighttime mod, but I did using our extension system that No Fate has designed and also struggled with the Frostbite like sections because like I said, things change, our understanding changes, and you gotta ooh, that compile time. But that aside, um shout out Danny on PC. He was able to actually record some of the footage from the zombies mode that we had, where the Russian team were the zombies and they had no weapons. They couldn't pick up weapons. They only spawned with their knife, and they were also faster than the humans. They also had more health. So it would require like more than like a few headshots in order to like take one down, even if you had like an assault rifle, let alone a pistol. And there's gameplay of this on Danny on PC's channel, and that was like one of the earliest mods we did. We also did proof of concepts for converting single player maps into multiplayer maps. No Fate figured it out, and I pretty much automated it to try to see like, oh, we can just try different single player maps and see if they load, see if it crashes, what happens, etc. But it kind of automated it. There was an actual like pro mod that we were going to run at one of the tournaments, except for there was issues with the mod that we didn't end up actually getting to show that one off. But that is also still in. Um, and then I don't think I'm missing any. There are still mods in development, but they haven't been shown off yet, so I'm probably not going to go too much into that because it's not us working on it, and I don't want to like overpromise something that like that team hasn't figured out quite yet.
Okay.
Um, but I don't think there was any. Do you know of any more that I'm probably
Um,
missing?
yeah, we did a couple more things. So we did a proper night mod. So the one that you were talking about, like the pitch black Metro one, that was basically just turning the lights off, pretty much.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Which was why it was pitch black. But now we're able to do, like proper nighttime scenarios where you can actually see around you. And our zombie mod was in that setting, and we're currently, at least I am currently working on reviving that into our newer modding system, making it a bit more interesting. What else do we do?
Oh,
Oh, we ported the two-seater jet from single player to multiplayer. That was interesting. Flying a
oh
jet with
yeah,
two
we
people.
got weapon skins too. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, we got weapons. We had the
A
Magnum
Magnum
Fade.
fade. Oh,
Like
and
there
then
should
and
be an
then
image of that somewhere still.
and then my mod just because was a murder cage where
Oh
I
yeah.
moved all the spawn points into like this unused area in Metro, which was like probably like a 20 by 20 like box, and everyone just had to like duke it out in there.
Yeah, that was interesting. Oh, and then who was it? I think Rodney,
Oh, the
who was one of
shooting
our
jets.
yeah, it was one of our good friends. He made guns shoot tanks and jets and all that sort of stuff. So you see, there's a video of that somewhere. I think Danny also
Also on
has.
Danny.
Yeah,
Danny.
I think
Shout out
Danny also
Danny.
has one.
Yeah, I've seen
Um,
the video of the tank or the guns that shoot tanks, and it's absolutely absurd
yeah, that
watching that
is
go.
crazy. You should see
Uh,
the server, how the server handles that. It doesn't like that at all.
Oh, there was also the mod where it made all staff invisible, and we just went around reviving Danny on PC every time he got killed.
I remember
Uh,
Rodney was fucking with us. Like when we first started making mods, I had added this thing where you could just turn your character invisible, and he would just make himself invisible, and you could only see his name tag at the bottom of like the street, like at street level. It wasn't even, at the head level. So you would see this name tag just going around the entire map and knifing people. It was great.
Oh, there was also the one where I was messing with the invincibility, and whenever you knife somebody, like do the grab animation, they'll just like die. Their gun will like flail around. They'll just lay on the ground for like 20 seconds and then like get up.
Yeah.
Oh, good time.
So it sounds like you guys have done a lot of modding, like the multiplayer of the game, but it's just a bunch of small things so far.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
our
there's a few large scale things that are in development.
very large scale.
Very large scale. Um, I'm not gonna say too much about them either, not to misrepresent them, but there is a team of people who are currently working on a Project Reality mod for
Oh.
VU, and that
And
is pretty extensive.
yeah, and then
Um,
I think, like I said, we had the experiment of the battle royale stuff, but I don't know if that's gonna get picked up right away. That might have to wait till after we launch, and then we'll probably put the experiment on GitHub or something if it doesn't get picked up, and that way somebody else can try to revive it or at
our our
least learn from
plan
it.
our plan is to launch VU with at least a few different mods so people can, first of all, play them, and second of all, use them as reference to make their own things.
Hmm.
And all of those will be publicly available for everyone to, see and change and, play with and use, of course.
Okay. So you briefly touched on it about porting some campaign maps over. Have you guys thought about doing custom maps, not only allowing people to make their own maps, but also, well, my friend that does the MW2 modding with me, he has tried to port over some source maps to Modern Warfare 2, most notably Dust 2. And
Hmm.
are you guys going to allow or try to incorporate stuff like that? So can I play Dust 2 TDM in Venice Unleashed?
So there's, this is a long list of things that need to be addressed to be able to do all those things. But our plan all along has been to allow creation of custom content, and that includes, entirely new maps and models. And ideally, you should be able to take VU and turn it into a completely different game.
Hmm.
Now that's not possible yet, but we're working towards it. And Kiwi has been leading another project, which is called Rhyme, and that is our Frostbite editor, which allows us to do all sorts of different things like editing maps, creating new maps, editing models, and all those different things. Now, right now, what we can do is that we are restricted to using existing content. So if you wanted to make a new map, you would have to use the terrain from an already existing map and then buildings and props and all those different things from other maps.
Yeah, there's
Um,
been a lot of the way I would put rhyme is, like I said again, there's a lot of code written that handles doing these things like models, various other assets that come in it, but none of it works together right now.
yeah,
And
or at
also,
least in a user-friendly way.
yeah, it's very developer oriented right now, and we're taking extreme care to like user experience and various things like that. So we're designing systems to pretty much support how various users are going to do it because on this team we have programmers, we have people with zero programming experience who are just like level designers and like asset creators and stuff like that. So we have people from like a wide spectrum to get feedback from them of, hey, like this is how we should do this is how we do this, so we can design around the flexibility we want to offer like to the end user. So that's how things are getting like restructured and organized currently.
Yeah, and there's been a tremendous amount of research that has gone down into, Frostbite and different file types, how the terrain system works, how, the rendering system works, how meshes work, how animations work, how textures work, all those different things.
Sound, everything, yeah.
And we have been building all those different things into Rhyme. And Rhyme is basically going to be working in conjunction with VU and the systems that it provides. So, for example, the scripting system that VU provides to create
Yeah,
whatever you
so you
want.
can create like a mod in Rhyme and export it to the scripting system that VU uses. And there's like I said, there's a lot of like prototypes and stuff we have to revisit, bring up to date to like our current understanding of Frostbite. But real time connections between Rhyme and VU. There's a lot going into Rhyme. There's also a lot of unannounced features that are going to be launching either with Rhyme or shortly after that will just make the entire experience pretty much seamless, is what we're going for.
Yeah, so you should be able to just, get VU, get Rhyme, and then just put those things together and make your own mods. And we're going to be trying to make the developer experience as decent as possible. We have started working on our wiki for VU, so we're starting to put down in words how to make mods, how different systems work, reference for people who are not really familiar with the Frostbite engine or with modding.
Yeah, because I want to say, especially with the people we have on like our various teams, the hardest part about doing anything with Frostbite is just that initial learning curve. And when studios say, like BioWare, for example, how they said that they were stripped of people and then thrown into this completely new engine with like less than a year or two to crank out a full game, it's not going to end well. But like that's with any real large scale engine. Like if you threw me into the Unreal Engine and was like, "Hey, you have a year to make a AAA game," it's not going to happen. It's just too many intricacies and like engine restrictions, things like that. Because we do get feedback from our testers and our developers. We're like, "Hey, can we do this? Like, why can't we do this?" And then we have to explain to them that we would love to provide you this, but this is just not how the Frostbite engine works. So, like for example, they were trying to modify the soldier, and the thing is, Frostbite has inheritance, and all players, like multiplayer players, all inherit from this one soldier, which means when they change it, it changes for everyone. And they were asking us, like, hey, can we just like somehow split references or do something in order to get it separated for everyone? And we had to explain to them like we can't do that. That's just a limitation of the Frostbite engine. But here, from what our understanding is, what you can do, and it seems like that's been working for them.
Has it been working for them? Actually, I don't know if they ever tested it.
Did they actually test it?
I don't think they
Eh.
did.
We fixed it in quotation marks, and we're waiting on them to confirm it.
Well, I told them how to go about doing it, but I don't know if they ever tested it. Well, it was all theory anyway, so we'll
Yeah,
see.
just because we don't know exactly how every last thing is tied together in the Frostbite engine. We have a very good understanding of it, but there's still always like tricks and stuff that the engineers over at DICE, they are really clever and talented people over there on the Frostbite team, because there's been stuff we were looking at for years and we're like, yo, why does DICE do this? Like this makes no sense. Why would they do this? And then like later on, like years later, after our understanding got better, we like go back and look at it like, yo, this makes perfect sense.
Yeah, there's still, a few things that don't make sense,
Which
but
we'll probably figure out eventually.
yeah, or a few decisions, I guess, that DICE made when they were making the engine that we don't necessarily agree with, mostly because they make our lives miserable when trying to expose them so people can use them for themselves. But what can you do? It's all part of the deal.
Mm-hmm. So it was also briefly touched on about the porting of campaign maps over to multiplayer, but have you guys
Oh,
thought
yeah.
about doing anything with the campaign itself? Like, are you going to? I don't even know where to begin.
In the end, like that's goals. To have like a full like single player experience, but as of right now, that is not the focus.
Yeah, right
Focus is
now,
multiplayer.
our focus is almost entirely multiplayer. We have no plans on, at least anytime soon, on looking into co-op
Yeah,
or single player.
not
Um,
anytime soon.
what we do want to do though, and we had a major breakthrough on that front maybe a week and a half ago. How long was it? Not sure.
But it was recent.
It was recent, yeah. We do want to port single player maps into multiplayer in a way that makes sense. And by that I mean, you can't just take one map and turn it into multiplayer and then expect that it's going to work well.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah,
things that
we're
you got to
actually gonna have
change, like
level.
layout and,
Yeah.
game modes and all that different stuff. But that's definitely something that we want to do.
That sounds like it'll be fun.
Yeah, we tested it, and even in its broken form, it was interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, and it also because the single player maps are interesting because they're single player maps. They're built in a linear way. There's there's a few different things that are interesting that we can do with them. Like we can make a few different game modes that play completely differently from what one would expect from the standard multiplayer game that match how those maps are designed.
One of the last questions I have is like, what is the end game for Venice Unleashed, and like, where will Venice Unleashed go?
Um, Endgame. Okay. So VU aspires to be a framework. Um, and that's kind of what I was talking about before. We want people to be able to just take VU with their Battlefield 3 installation and then just turn it into a complete different game if they want to.
Total conversion.
Total conversion, yes. So that's the ultimate goal. That at that point, the engine is just a toolkit and you're just building on top of it whatever you want. But our current goal is that the systems that we provide are extensive enough where people can do things that make sense in, like a modding environment. So it's more, sandboxy, but not completely do whatever you want because we don't, it's just too much work,
Yeah.
unfortunately or fortunately. But we're getting there.
Okay. And then the last question I have is playing off of the meme with Venice Unleashed, but do you guys have any official release date?
No.
No.
I knew the question that was coming, but no.
No?
That's a
Yeah.
definitive no.
But with that being said, you'll definitely know when it's coming out.
Yeah?
Like there will
Yes.
be a lot of people making a lot of noise in a lot of places. Potentially with I personally want to do this like a slight preview window, so maybe like a few days, so people can like figure get their first taste on it for select people. But it's not gonna be in no like 3 month gap. It'll be probably like a few days. Like we're definitely good to go everything's ready. We're just tightening up the last bit, and then whenever that date comes.
Yeah, and we're also planning on, doing several community-focused events around our launch, be it, just gathering people together to play games or something more involved. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, thank you to...
But no ATA.
Soon, TM.
Soon, TM.
Well, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your days to talk to me. It was really eye-opening talking to you guys and just absorbing all of this.
No problem. Our pleasure.
Any final words before I hit the stop button on the recording?
Soon, TM. I'm sorry, I had to.
Fair enough. Kiwi, any final words?
Nah, that was what I was gonna do.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, no bro.
Thank you too.
Well, thank you to...
But no ATA.
Soon, TM.
Soon, TM.
Well, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your days to talk to me. It was really eye-opening talking to you guys and just absorbing all of this.
No problem. Our pleasure.
Any final words before I hit the stop button on the recording?
Soon, TM. I'm sorry, I had to.
Fair enough. Kiwi, any final words?
Nah, that was what I was gonna do.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, no bro.
Thank you too.